Hello, hello, hello to our excellent viewers who hopefully have joined us today. And welcome to another stream here at Wheels Up Live. And today we are going to fly the 737-900. All right, now I have flown the 737 plenty of times. I have recently picked up the 737-900, however, so this is my first time out and about with this particular model. So we'll see what happens. I decided to take it on sort of a classic route here. We're going down from Dulles. Shockingly, I picked Dulles Airport. I wonder how that happened. Let's see. IAD bound. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Down to Orlando, and why not? Let's have a little Disney jaunt, perhaps. I don't want to make a suggest that the only thing down there is Disney, when plainly it is not. There's a lot going on in Orlando. It's far more than just a destination to go to a theme park. Although it is pretty strong in the theme park category, it's really hard to argue with it. I think for those of you who've been, lucky enough to go there, it's an exciting place. I happen to enjoy Universal as well. Always fun with the kids. So that's our route today. Now we are flying in a United livery. For those of you who are interested in livery, this is from Jviation. You can find it on flightsim.to for this very nice 737-900ER. And this is a real world flight. United flies it every day. I believe it's every day. United Airlines flight 379. And I have put us on VATSIM, although there's nobody on here at the moment. So we will not be on Unicom, because in the United States, as you know, if you're at a Class B like this, generally you are supposed to be using what they're calling the local CTAF frequency, which frankly is usually just the tower frequency. And indeed, today they've got our CTAF set as 134.425, which is the tower frequency for one left, one right, 19 right, as well as runway 30. It's, of course, there's also runway 12 on the other side, but runway 12 is not regularly in use. They pretty much only use 30 for takeoffs. There are really no landings from that direction. So I took the liberty of looking at the weather here, and if we have a quick look, you can see winds are 0906. So I've actually got us taking off on 01 center, which is just, if we look out here, 01 center is just off to our right. So we look this direction, we've got 01 right over here, 01 center over there, and way off we have 01 left. And of course, behind us here, we have the iconic terminal building that was designed by Eero Saarinen, famous architect. And this airport was built in the early 1960s. Oops, sorry. Just gonna... Well, I tried to get us our Xbox controller here so you could have a look-see, and of course now it's unhappy. All right, well, so be it. All right, so I have taken the liberty of starting us up here at least a little ways. We've got ground power on. I've got, the window heats on, got the yaw damper on. I have aligned the IRSs already, so you can see. And I went ahead and I've put our flight plan in, I've loaded our fuel, and I have loaded our payload. So we have a lot of the bits and pieces done. So let me give you a little overview of what we will be doing today. So let's have a look here at Navigraph. So we're going to leave 0, 1 center. We'll be doing some vectoring to get ourselves over onto the JW4 RNAV departure. Pretty much you just get vectored. So if you look at the discussion here, you're going to climb on a heading by ATC, and you'll expect radar vectors to Hafner, and then you're going to go on a track of 225 to JW, then on assigned transition. And we'll talk about what that is in just a second. So, yeah, there's nothing super exciting here. Interestingly, you can also fly this departure if you were coming from the Winchester Regional Airport, which I've not flown out of, but Winchester is right over here. There it is, KOKV. So apparently you might be put on this departure as well if you were coming from there. You can see it's applicable to 1 left, 1 center, 1 right. That's which of course we will be using today. So I will expect in terms of our traffic piece, I'm not 100% sure how they are vectoring this most days. If you're landing on the ones, a lot of the traffic is coming via that Hyper 9, which comes sort of right down to the east of the airport. So I expect we would probably get vectored out to the west and then down and around here. So that's what we'll do unless we see some reason to do it otherwise. And then we're going to go along here to Risen. That is the end of the SID for us. These are our other planned waypoints along the way here. And then we're going to be on the, that is the Seinfeld 3 arrival. And as you can see, we have a lot going on this arrival to get you down into Orlando airspace. It's a very busy area. We got Orlando Executive over here, Orlando Sanford, and we have Kissimmee. So I mean, there's a lot of air traffic in and around Orlando, and of course, Florida in general is such a popular place for GA flying, private pilot flying, etc. And then as far as our landing goes right now, I've got us planned for the ILS 35 right. And we're going to come in from Saray. So if we come, look again over here, you'll see our our star ends at Kubel. And I expect we will vector ourselves over to Saray or thereabouts. And then we'll come in on final for 35 right. So there we are for that flight. And I have positioned us at gate C27 here at Dulles. And United operates primarily out of this terminal C and D. They run together right here. So you can see they come from sort of from the west there coming along to the east. It's quite a big terminal. In the new arrangements that they have in their setup, there is now a subway between the main terminal and Terminal C, although oddly, when you get dropped off there, you're still a ways from the actual terminal. So it's nice that they've done it, but I don't know. I mean, if you remember the iconic transports here, and you can see them across the way, the so-called mobile lounges, you can see them over here. they would take you from the main terminal to out to Terminal C and D, and indeed they still do. So there's plenty of ways to get there. Now in the real world, they left from gate C11 today, but we're over at 27. Okay, and we'll be coming to Orlando, and I guess they arrived at gate 40. I haven't looked to see where gate 40 is yet, but maybe we'll plan that depending on availability, traffic, etc. All right, so let's have a look then. So here's our route, and you can see I've got that in there now. I get the JW4 to Risen, direct to Golf, Sierra, Oscar. Then we have a couple of airways. Then we're on the Seinfeld. Then we go to Saray. Then we our approach transition, Besha, and then we land on our runway. Okay, so that's the route. We can see those in the legs as well. And, normally we just check the legs. We can see we've got a couple of restrictions here. We're going to pay attention to those. Also, at some point as we're working on our approach, we may spend a little time revising the inputs here for any of these particular waypoints and restrictions. If ATC pops up, of course, they may give us something different. So let's go to the perf page, which I have not done yet. So today I downloaded a United flight plan format from SimBrief. So I'll warn you in advance, I am not a United flight plan from SimBrief expert. Sorry. We'll just have to deal with it. Let me just make sure I have chat up so I can see if anybody's talking with us here. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. If we do have anybody in chat, please let me know. Always glad to hear from you. All right, so let's have a look at the our perf init for today. So we're just going to double check this is our flight, right? United 379, that's right. We're going from Dulles to Orlando. That's right. We got today. This is our tail number. And we are in fact a Boeing 739. All right. And let's have a look here. So our distance on this route is about 726 miles. We can cross-check that if we look at let's have a look at progress, 716 miles. That sounds reasonable. Just a few miles difference. Well, we had a fuel factor here. I've not put that in, so we're just going to have to, let's see if we can go back. We might be a little late for that one. Yeah, okay. Well, we are, but that's fine. I think we'll be okay. Hey, if we get a little warning, we'll get a little warning. Our cost index today is going to be 44 for our cost index. And let me see what we had on the reserves because I don't remember. Let's see. Minimum takeoff, planned takeoff. Yes, I apologize for not being intimately familiar with this this particular format. So I am going to make a quick change here and just double check my flight over here. All right, so we have, let me just make a quick edit here. Because I'm double checking the fuel over here. Apologize for the delay there. All right, so our reserve fuel for this is going to be 6.8. So we'll just make sure we have that in there. Now I've already loaded up, so I'm just going to do the quick cheat to get our zero fuel weight in there. And just be clear, I've got this here in pounds. And our altitude today is going to be 320. And let's check our cruise wind. That's going to be 220 at 19. Okay, and we've got that in. And our OAT on the day, we are looking at plus 11 from the ISA, which is quite a bit. Wow. All right, so it's going to be minus 37 from the standard ISA. All right, and we can go ahead. And of course, our transition altitude will be 18,000. So we'll go ahead and execute that. And then we can go to our N1 limit. Now, we'll go ahead and use the performance calculator here, right? So we can bring that in from the OFP. We're at Dulles. We're going to take off at 01 center. Our conditions are dry. Okay. Then we are going to have takeoff flaps. We'll just make it optimum, rating optimum. Anti-ice is going to be off. Let's get our CG and our weight in. I just brought that in from the aircraft, and let's bring in our imported weather. All right, and then we can calculate. Voila. So what have we got? I changed that acceleration height. I don't know why that's showing as that. So, okay, so what we have is we have a cell temp of 50, right? And, oops, sorry. Just going to delete that. Excellent. So our rating is going to be takeoff 1, and we have a cell temp of 50. Okay, so how does that translate? Over here, I've got that on there. I've got takeoff at 1, and climb is still in the climb mode there, okay? And our cell temp is 50. Okay, so that looks like it lines up, 94.34, 94.4. That's pretty close. All right, and then for our takeoff, it wants us to use flaps 5 for our optimum. And let's have a look. We have 147, 149, and 154. So I've got these. We got a flaps 5. CG's just in from the FMC itself, which it's just pulling from what the airplane has available. And then we have 147, 149, 154. Let's go to the next page because I want to tweak the acceleration height. So we're going to go, it's going to be 1000 AGL. Thrust reduction can be 1000, and the engine out acceleration at 1000. I'm just going to make it big so I know that I entered that. Okay. All right, so that's good. Well, essentially, we've already done everything we need to do to get the FMC in a position where it's happy. All right, so from what we can do here, we can double check some of our flows. Let's see here. Sorry. One more. All right, I have actually checked up here already. I've already run this. We've got the nav aligned, etc. But we can check our stall warning, etc. We can do a fire test if you like. So we just check that that's working. Great, and now we take it the other way. Voila, and you can see we're getting all the warnings. And if we press, oops, I wasn't fast enough on that one. But if we pressed it again, sorry, right click, and yeah, there we go. See that? All right, we're able to cancel that. Excellent. Okay. And we have already set our COM to the CTAF frequency. VATSIM gave us the default, I'm sorry, VATSIM assigned us a squawk code because there's no ATC coverage, and it now does the auto squawk code here in the United States. That's 3506 is what it asked us to swap, and we've put that on there already. A little panel brightness on here just to lighten it up a little bit in the dark. All right, and we can go ahead now, just double check our panels. Checking our positions, yaw dampers on, these are, closed and guarded, etc. We've got all these navigation switches in the normal position. We don't need alternates right now for our fuel pumps. If you look, we do not have, we do have some fuel in the center tank, my bad. Okay, so for our fuel pumps, we can check our crossfeed. Oh, it never hurts to test that. Wait for the light, there we go. Now it'll extinguish. Just going to go ahead and get our fuel pumps on. And we'll go ahead and start the APU. Okay, APU is starting. Right now, what it's demonstrating for us up here is what our battery looks like, what our ground power looks like. And we have our ground power on. Obviously, our generators are off at the moment. We can check our panel lights here. And you can decide how bright you'd like it. The equipments are all in the normal position. The emergency exit light is armed and closed. We can chime the cabin, and we can put the seatbelts in the auto mode because we have, in fact, already loaded the fuel for the plane. If we were still fueling, we'd have the seatbelts off, but right now we're good. And then we want to go ahead and we would check with our ground crew to see if we can pressurize the hydraulics, which I'd like to do. So we're going to go ahead and pressurize the electric hydraulics. Okay. And once we have the APU, okay, we can get the APU on the bus. Right, APU is on the bus now. So we can disconnect the ground power. Sorry, that's over here. Been spending a lot of time in the 777. Sorry. All right, so we can release the ground power here. All right, and then we're going to go ahead. We can get our APU bleed to on, and our altitude is going to be 32,000. Today, our landing altitude, I'll just check what the elevation is over here at MCO. So our touchdown zone is going to be 90 feet. Okay. Let's just see how that compares with the actual airport elevation information, 96. Okay. So we'll just set the landing elevation then to 100. It only goes in increments of 50. We're just going to round it to the closest one. All right, so we've got the APU on. Now let's come down here, and we want to have a look at a couple of our settings. I've set the altimeter. This is just using the information from the sim. We're going to go ahead and check here. We're going to get our flight directors on. All right, so I started with the left one, the right one on. Let's go ahead and set our initial target speed, which is going to be equal to our V2 speed, of course. Our heading on this runway, let's check what our heading is. Let's have a look here. For 1C, our heading is 011. So we'll set 011 on here. Come on. All right, and on this particular star, your initial altitude is SID, initial altitude is 3,000. So I've got that on there. All right, and hypothetically, we're going to follow LNAV VNAV, although we're really going to be vectoring. So we'll wait a moment for that. We'll get to that. when we're ready. Okay, so now we would want to go ahead and just make sure that all of our controls across here are where we want them to be. I'll tell you already they are. And we can check on here. We have hydraulic pressure, it's adequate. We've got oxygen, adequate. And we can turn that status light off. We can put the engine indicator on because that's what we're going to be watching when we start this thing. Okay, just having a quick check here. I've got our TCAS set to transponder. As I mentioned, we have the CTAF tuned in, although I will say I haven't heard a single transmission, so I'm not sure if anybody is actually here or not. We'll find out. My guess is not. You know how it goes sometimes on VATSIM. When there's nobody there, there's nobody there. I don't know what else to tell you on that one. Okay, now I don't have all. I should have all of my checklists in front of me, but for some reason today I do not. So we're just going to wing it. So we do a little recall. We have our electric. That's normal. Let's have a look at our setting here. You can see we have our takeoff is set to takeoff 1 and has our cell temp as 50. That's correct. We're going to go to RTO because that's what we're going to be using. And we can see we have our speeds here on the primary flight display, and of course we have our route way out here in the navigation display. So functionally we're moving along. Clock looks fine. We would check, of course, that all of our indicators here, that we have all of our panels set as we need them. Come across over here. Again. Oops. You can see that. I'm just going to add a little more brightness to our main panel. You can do a system test if you like of the GIPWiz.
Glide slow.
There you go. That'll annoy you all day.
Pull up.
Pull up.
Wind shear. Wind shear. Wind shear. Terrain. Terrain. Pull up. Airspeed low. Airspeed low.
Yeah, wonderful. Get the whole checkerboard. Enjoy the whole scene here. All right. In the meantime, let's just have a look around, see if anyone's here. It's looking pretty empty. Let's go ahead and get GSX queued up here. And prepare for pushback and departure. Oh, and we need to set our parking brake. Let's get that set. All right, parking brake is set. All right, and we got to go and make sure, just double check here, that when we look at our services, see the wheel chocks are still set. So we're going to remove those.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Yes, we are. Okay. Here comes our friends, our GSX friends at the incredibly slow. I mean, it's just pain personified with these folks.
Bypass pin inserted.
All right, just make sure they're all set on that, which we are. All right, so we're going to go to our pushback mode. And in pushback mode, what we do is we get our anti-collision light on. You can see I've set the seat belts to on, and we're ready. We're going to go to one center. I'm going to have them move us with our nose to the right. goes to the right. There we go.
Release parking brakes, please.
So we'll release the parking brakes, and you just hold down the
Commencing
brakes.
push.
And
All
they'll
engines
depress.
clear. Start at will.
All right, so we've been given the we can start fun in the sun. So what we're going to do is get our ignition on, and we're going to go turn that to ground, and now we will see that the engine is going to start initiating here. And all we're just double checking here is we're getting N2 going. Eventually there'll be some N1. We want to make sure that oil pressure is rising. When the N2 gets to about 25, we'll put the fuel in, because at this point it's just motoring. All right, there we go. Now we've got our fuel in. Now we're going to watch that oil pressure. It's continue to come up. We have fuel flow. We have N1. And looks like we're going to have a good start. So there's nobody out here. Normally I call it. Let me just give a quick call here. Dulles traffic, United 937, pushing back from gate Charlie 27. Dulles traffic. Sorry. Correction, United 379. See, I've even got my flight backwards. That's always a good look. It's always a good look when you get yourself completely backwards. All right. Sorry, I'm just making a note here.
Please set parking brakes.
Wow, that was a fast pushback. Okay. Well, let's just have a look around and make sure we're happy with where we are. Yeah, that looks good. All right.
Waiting your confirmation for a good engine
I
start.
set the parking brake. Before I give them that, let's just get the next our next engine starting. There we go. Okay. We'll let GSX know.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
Unlocking gear.
All right, and we're ready to introduce the fuel now. There we go. All right.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear. Right is clear.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get the power on the bus. Okay, that's good. And let's go ahead and get the fans in the auto position. APU bleed is off. All right, so we have our pressurization panel set now. And let's go ahead and double check. That looking good. All right. Now this one is set up so we can see our controls. So we can just do a little control check. All right, full up. Oh, I'm sorry, I have him compressed. That makes it harder to see. Click spot, no. There we go. Okay, so now we can do it where you can see it. So you'd have full forward, full back, neutral, full left, neutral, full right, neutral, And we would just do a quick check of our rudders. Full right, full left. All right, so we have free, full, and correct. Now for our takeoff, we're using flaps 5 today. So let's go ahead and set flaps 5. And as always, when you do that, you just want to make sure that the flaps are actually moving. So we've set the lever, yes, but we want to watch the yeah, I moved that by accident. Yeah, I clicked on it. Yeah, we'll reset our fuel flow. After we've done that, let's check our check that our rudder trim and aileron trim are set to 0. And can't remember, I clicked on the wrong button, of course. Yeah, okay. Yeah. As you can see, I've got this, I have moved where it's positioned. Ah, there we go. I just clicked it over there. There we go. Thank you. I just wasn't remembering where I had put it. All right, so we have flaps 5 now, and we do indeed. We have our RTO set. So let's go ahead and get our taxi set up. So on my taxi bit, what happens is we turn the APU off. Turn the ignition off here. We've got the taxi lights and runway turn-off light sets set as well. So those are ready. Now, in terms of how we're going to taxi, here's what we're going to do. Can have a little look here. It's pretty simple. We're going to go via Delta. We're going to come out to Yankee, and we're going to go Yankee to Yankee 9, and then Yankee 11, and then we'll be on one center. Simple as that. Nothing too complicated. Let's let the world know what we're going to do. United 379, taxiing for runway 01 center via Delta, Yankee 9, Yankee 11. Dulles traffic. All right, so we've let everyone know what we're going to do. Get our parking brake off. Apply a little power. Start rolling. If we're lucky. There we go. So you need, a little bit of breakaway power with this plane. So for those of you who are wondering, I'm using a Honeycomb Bravo with this as far as the throttle quadrant. And then I've got a flight stick here that I've been trying out from Virpil. And I have a couple of external CDUs and a radio panel, some stuff like that, just to make it fun and interesting. I mean, Dulles Airport's just, I don't know, some people love it, they hate it, but for me personally, I love Dulles. It's a great airport. It's a fun place to be. It's you get to see a lot of interesting planes out here. Maybe not as much as a JFK or an LAX or a Heathrow, but there's a lot of interesting stuff out here. And of course, way back in the day, they used to fly the Concorde out of here. So, I mean, that's always exciting. I can remember seeing the Concorde here when I was younger. And you can still, well, up until not that long ago, you could see the 7478 that Lufthansa was flying, but they've moved to the A340 at the moment, and then they're going to the A380, I think, in October. Or something like that. You'll notice I have the VORs turned on, but nothing tuned at the moment. I probably should, but I haven't. I'm really... Hello, Lock and Does Stuff. Good to see you. Welcome back. We're doing a little 737-900ER just for kicks today, because I have not I've not actually flown this one. I've flown the 737-800 and 700 quite a bit, but it's a new one for me on the 900. I just picked it up in last month's PMDG anniversary sale. I think it was 25 or 26% off or something like that. Brought it down into the $30-some range. Good deal for a plane of this quality. All right, well, we're not actually going to use LNAV right away here, but we are going to use our VNAV. When you see we've armed that, and we're going to start with heading select for this one because, well, we're going to fly the heading. Then we're going to vector ourselves, so heading select will work fine. Have you done some flying today, Locken? Alright, you can see we're coming down the way here, just cruising along. Until we get to our appointed spot, we're slowing down a little bit, so I'm just going to add just a little tiny bit more juice in there because I suspect that there's not a lot of southwest traffic at Dulles, but I suspect that somebody else were they here would be pretty annoyed at me by this point. Taxiing along at a whopping, 7 miles an hour here. So because I've set this up, I've just set up all of my controls for it, which of course are basically just mirrored off of the off of my other 737 settings, but you never know what might happen all at once. So we'll see. Always an adventure. There's really nobody out here at Dulles, which is fine. We are on VATSIM. I did not put the overlay on today. I found it sort of annoying yesterday, so today I'm not using it. All right. And here is Yankee 8, and we're going to go to Yankee 9. For those of you who are wondering, this is the flight beam Dulles. Big fan of Flightbeam and Mir and his work. He's a great guy. If you don't have the sceneries, I highly recommend them. His latest is San Francisco, which is incredible. If you haven't seen it, I think Dulles is on his list for an update. So that could be interesting. All right, here's our intersection. I'm sorry, Lock-in. What's that? Just wondering, do you... Okay, hang on one second, I'll look at that. Alright, so... Do you watch the YouTuber pilot Debrief Hoover? That does not ring a bell to me, I'm sorry. Alright, let's get our takeoff configuration here going. We'll let everyone know we're going to take off. Dulles traffic, United 379, entering runway 1 Charlie for takeoff to the north. Dulles traffic. Alright, so we'll go ahead and come on the runway here. Taxi up to that. I'm going to use our takeoff mode now. And in my takeoff mode, what I do is that puts our landing lights on, and it moves our TCAS to TARA. And we'll make sure we have traffic on. Alright, well I haven't flown this one, so we're going to see how we do on our lineup. Should be an always an interesting test to see how you're doing when you do your lineup. Alright. Oh, we're losing efficacy of the turn here. There's something that happens sometimes with the tiller where if I get out to the very edge of the range, it stops responding and I have to pull it back a little bit. So we're going to be a little tiny bit off here on our lineup, but we'll fix that in just a moment. Alrighty. Well, that was annoying. Alright. So here, we'll go ahead, spool them. We'll just wait for them to stabilize. Toga. Make sure that heading select is on. There we go. Cross checked.
V1.
Rotate. Oh wow, that took us hard to the right there, but we got it. Gear up. All right. Just adjusting here. Alrighty. Now, our initial altitude here is going to be about 3,000 feet, so we're going to let it control. Nose will start coming down. We're gaining speed. We can go to flap 1. So watch, our nose comes down. Holding it. There we go. I'm just going to hold it here so we're climbing nice and steady. Go. Flaps 1. And go flaps up here in a moment. Okay. Alright. Yes, I took us past 3,000. My bad, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep climbing now. Go to 32,000. Oh, make it 10. All right, 10,000. Just going to follow our controls here. Go flaps up. There we are. Alrighty, now we can, I've gone ahead and added the AP in here. We're going to let it climb. I've put us at 10,000. We'll just let Dulles traffic know that we're gone. Dulles traffic, United 397 has departed runway 1 Charlie. And we are departing to the north and west. Last call, Dulles traffic. Alright, so we'll go over to VATSIM. We'll go over to, Unicom now. And we'll climb. And now we're going to start vectoring ourselves. So where we're going is way behind us. So we're going to turn to a heading of 270 first. Yeah, Locken, I am on VATSIM. So we can expand our range so we can see a little better, but we're not going to see much. So if we actually, we can change our view, of course. Go to a compass rose view, and as you can see, our next spot is actually way off here to our south and west. Go ahead. No, there's no ATC right now, Locken. It's a dead zone. I was just using the local CTAF, and then I moved over to Unicom since we've left the airport now. All right, well, we're going to go to our cruise altitude now. Might as well. All right, well, we'll continue our turn. Check their, we have to check our bank angle. Sorry, let me, get a little more bank angle. There we go. It's just limited. All right, I'm going to sort of put ourselves on an intercept course here. See, we're just going to kind of come back around past the airport. So essentially when you take off from the north there, you go over the Potomac River in towards Maryland, then you're just turning around and coming back essentially. Alright, we can go back to we can go back to our regular map view now. And you can see here, if we look at it, we're probably going to hit, we come this way, we'll hit JDub first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sequence JDub. So look at our legs, we'll make JDub our next sequence, execute that. And now if we like, I can just let LNAV take over. There we go, there's LNAV. And it'll take us right along. Get our RTO off. Alright, so let's have our after takeoff done. Alright, so on the after takeoff now, I've put the seatbelts to auto, turned all of the landing lights, etc. off. Taxi lights are off, but as you can see, the strobe stays on and the beacon light stays on. Right, and flaps retracted, and the gear leveler is at off, so you can see. So we'll be coming up on 18,000 shortly. We'll go to standard at that point. So Locken, did you get some flying in yourself today? Forgot our elapsed time. Alright, so let's have a little look outside here. Nice day! As you can see, crossing back across the airport again, just off to its west here. There's runway 30, one left, one center, one right. Can't even handle X-plane well. Well, I put nothing into that. I mean, X-plane is not exactly what I would call the best optimized option. Frankly, I find Microsoft Flight Simulator to perform the best of all of my sims. And I've got X-plane and I've got, you know, P3D and all of that. So, I mean, for me, I'd say run Microsoft. Just well, yeah, on X-plane it'll disconnect you because if you drop below 20 frames per second, it doesn't work with XPilot. That's why I say I'd run MSFS. Set the options down on the lower side. Of all the, you know, sims in terms of general performance capabilities, it's hard to argue with MSFS. You might even think about X-plane 12. Might run a little better. Although I got X-plane 12. I don't know. That makes a huge difference. But of course, there's nothing that says you have to fly online either. I mean, there's other ways to fly offline. I do it all the time. It's nice. It's fun. I mean, I feel like it's good. It's a good thing to do, especially when you're working things out with a plane that you haven't really used before. You don't want to take it straight online. You know, like this one. I mean, but I've used the 737 often enough. I'm not really worried about it. This is just a variant. No, it won't auto disconnect. It won't auto disconnect. But frankly, you know, when the way I mean, obviously, anytime you have a real loss of SPF or there's a lot of stutters or that sort of thing, that's always going to be an issue. That doesn't mean it'll kick you off of vPilot, but it's never, it's still an issue. So, you know, it's not ideal, but no, it won't kick you off. I'm sorry that your laptop just is not keeping up. Flight sim is about, you know, as you know, it's probably about the toughest thing you can do to a computer because it is really pushing the CPU as much as it's pushing the graphics. It's really pushing the CPU. So I mean, that's one of the things that makes it hard. I mean, I just don't. There are some laptops that can definitely take it, but can you run vPilot on X-plane? No. You can only use it with MSFS and P3D. You have to use XPilot with X-plane. But that's a good and fair question, but no, alas, it's not your friend. I'm just checking to see if there's anything happening from an online perspective. Nope, there's no ATC out here. Okay, no biggie. Sometimes that's nice, it's quiet. Somebody does come whizzing by, maybe you see him. So, since we're going down to runway 35 right down at Orlando, I think maybe what I'm going to do is get my course set. I know it's a little ways off, but hey, it's not the worst idea. Why would the final course for 35 right be 005? Okay, you say so. Maybe I'll get MSFS, might work. I have a 1650 Ti graphics card. Okay. Well, here's what I would say to that. I can't remember the exact performance profile of a 1650, but you can be sure that if you do a little research on the official Microsoft forums, if you look at their, they have a Discord too. If you did a little searching around for 1650 Ti, I'm sure someone would tell you how that works. But I'll tell you this again, it's not just your graphics card. You want to think about your CPU as well, because again, it's very CPU intensive whenever you start adding objects. And Flight Sim is just objects out the wazoo. So you need to have that balance between the CPU and the GPU. It's not just the graphics card. There's a lot of emphasis on that, but that is not the only thing you need to think about. You also need to think about how much RAM you have. So that's important. Make sure you're keeping that in mind. All right, and that frequency, by the way, I'm just looking here on the chart. Orlando 35 right. Final approach course 005, and the localizer frequency is 1115, and we could put that in if we want. 1115. Okay, and we could do 11115. All right, and now those are set, and we can actually see it right here on the PFD. You can see I've got the frequency and the course. Obviously, there's no DME reading yet because, well, we're a long way from there. We haven't even reached top of climb yet. Oops. Let's just have a check at our overhead, make sure everything's looking good. You can see our cabin pressurization's looking good. That's important. You want to make sure that we're not getting into the red. And of course we're not. This should have gone back to auto. Oh, it is in auto. Oh no, that's the chime. Sorry. The seatbelt's right here. I don't know why I'm clicking that. Just having one of those days, I guess. Alright. All of that looks good. Make sure our probe heat's on. Don't want the probes to freeze over. That would be bad. Your CPU is 2.8 gigahertz. That doesn't tell me anything other than that's the frequency for 2.1. Well, what CPU is it? I mean, the speed's helpful to know, but what CPU? And then all you want to do when you look at that CPU, you want to look at the CPU and the graphics card combination and check around to see if others are using it and what success or difficulties they're having with that CPU GPU combination. Because almost everyone has asked the question at some point, hey, will this work? Will such and such work okay with this combination of GPU, CPU, etc. and RAM? Okay, a Ryzen 5500U. Okay, so it's only one generation old, right? That 5500U. Feel like. I mean, it's technically 2 now since the 9000 series just came out, but let's see, 2.1 gigahertz. Single thread, okay. Yeah, I mean, when did it come out? 2021. All right, so it's not that old. I would, like I say, I would just search around for your combination on in the Microsoft forums. The Microsoft Discord, AvSim, any of those places to see what people say. But I got to tell you, your processor released after Microsoft, Flight Simulator 2020 came out. My guess is it's going to work. But, confirm. But as I say, I mean, just in terms of my general performance, though, without question, my best performance consistently is in Microsoft Flight Simulator versus all my other sims. That includes X-Plane 11, 12, and P3D. All right. Coming up on top of climb. Yay. Why do I feel like that took forever? I think I'm being spoiled by the 777. I'm not going to lie. All right, let's have a little look here. We can put our progress page on. I always like to check the progress page. How are we looking? Well, we've got 28 miles to go before Scorn. That's a great name. And then we're at Risen, and we've got 635 miles, of course, to Orlando, and so we've got about another hour and a half. Let's have a look at that chart just for a second here. So our minimums are going to be 240. Okay, that's handy to know. I don't know why I always have this issue. All right, so in terms of our minimums, we're going to go to 240. I'm just going to get that in now. Yes, we're a long way off, but hey, no harm in double checking. All right, and let's have a look at what's going to be our star. Actually, let's double check this again. So climb to 500, then climbing right, turn to 3000, outbound Orlando VOR on the 140 radius to Presque. Interesting. So one of the things that I would do in that instance is we would tune the VOR, which is 112.2. So we could actually, well, we're not going to do that right now, but afterwards we could tune to that if we needed to. All right, and you can see our center fuel tank is about to be done. So we'll see the pressure coming on here in a moment. Said it could run if you could double the RAM. How much RAM do you have? Guessing you have 8. 8 gigabyte? Eight gigabyte. Yeah, that's a tough one. Not gonna lie, that's gonna make it real tough. 16 is pretty much. You got to have about a minimum of 16. I just think it's otherwise it's just gonna be. It's just not gonna make you happy. May not be impossible, but it's not gonna be great. So if you notice here on our fuel pressure, we're getting the left one here, but in a moment we'll turn off the center pumps. The other one should come up here any moment. Yeah, we can kill it. Should be fine. There's not much left in there. Yeah, we're good. So Locken, what do you like flying in X-Plane 11? Do tell. Ooh, I like it. It's a good sharp livery. Let's give J-Aviation his props here. Just looks good. All right, so looking at this the star here on the Seinfeld 3, we have leopard, would be somewhere between 340 and 300. So in other words, you haven't really started descending yet. Ah, you've been flying the 737. Is that the Zebo mod or the built-in one? Hopefully the Zebo mod, I'm guessing. That Zebo mod's nice. I mean, you know, I got the PMDG here and I just favor MSFS, but the Zebo mod is pretty cool. Alright, then we have No Man for you, Nick. Okay. Seinfeld, Get Out, Higgs, Voss, Sunday, Cobalt. Okay. So let's check that our restrictions match up. Ah, the Zebo one. Good choice. Good choice, sir. Alright, so I am going to see if I can get our FMC in the view here so you can see it and we can see the Navigraph stuff at the same time. Yes, I don't use the in-game charts. I just don't like it as much. What can I tell you? Alright, so seem to be very busy. Okay. Let's page through. And our first point is going to be Leopard, and you can see that is correct. We have flight level 300 to 340. Okay. That's excellent. So I'm thinking of selling my laptop and buying a desktop. Found a really good deal for one with 32 gigabytes of RAM, 8 gigabyte graphic card, and an AMD Ryzen 5, 3 gigahertz, and 1 terabyte. That sounds nice. The only thing I might try to do is see if I could squeeze even more gigabytes of graphics capability, like 12 or something, 12 or 16 if you could, but that sounds snazzy. The Ryzen 5s, some of them are real nice. Depends which one. I mean, like a 5800 X3D, maybe? That would be good. Have you ever thought about just building one? Well, I mean, you could build yourself a desktop with these kinds of specs, probably pretty cheap. I mean, unless the really good deal is like maybe a second-hand one or something. But you might compare it to the cost of just getting the components and putting it together. Just a thought. 12 gigabytes and 12 gigabytes of graphics. Okay, that sounds nice. Which Ryzen 5? Alright, so Leopard 3000, No Man above 23, flight level 230. Yep. For you above 13,000. Nick above 12,000. Get Out between 12,000 and 16,000 at 280. And we have that there. That's excellent. Then we have Higgs 250 at 250 between 10 and 12. Voss. Interesting. We have 230 and above 8. Okay, that looks right. Sunday, we're going to be above 6,000. Google will be at 210 and 5. Yep, it's got that. Then we're going to have some vectors. Then when we come over to Saray, we want to be at 4. Yep. It's excellent. That's interesting, you know, it says above 4, but here's, let's make it do what we want it to do. So I'm going to put that at 4. There we go. Likewise, we'll look at the next spot, which is Fesha, and let's make that 3,000 rather than above. Just helping this thing figure it out. Okay, and then Hughes, we do want to be at 1,600, and I don't know that we'll be down to 157 at that point, but whatever. we'll figure it out from there. It'll be our final approach fix. And then we'll head down the glide slope, our 3-degree glide slope, and we've set the 290, I believe, on what? Did I pick a different one? Okay, that's weird. I could have sworn that our minimums were 240. Oh, got it. Got it. No, we just want the standard cat one. That's all. That's fine. 290, okay. So we'll do 290. Alright, so we've got that set now. Just trying to get ahead of the game in the box here. So how are we looking? Total air temperature is -11, that's fine. Obviously we're cruising around nicely. N2, EG2, all that's looking fine. Our fuel flow looks fine. Our fuel consumption's doing okay. Let's get our progress page back up. Excellent. Plenty of fuel on landing. It's an AMD Ryzen 4650G. I'm not familiar with that one. AMD Ryzen 4650G. That is not ringing a bell. Yeah, you know, that does not look significantly different than that 5500U that you have. AMD Ryzen 5500U. Let's have another look at that. Oh, come on now. Yeah, that's not substantially different than the one you have. You would have more RAM, of course. And you'd have a better graphics card, I guess. You don't say what graphics card it is. Which graphic card are we talking about? Let me do it a different way. I'm going to suggest that you go to. I don't know what your budget is, but because that's always that's a big issue. But think about. Here, you could try this website. If I can put this in, I'll post it here. You can go to PC Parts Picker, okay, and you can do a kind of create your own build. So you could start with it'll kind of march you through. It'll give you a CPU to look at, etc. Depending on you could sort of work with your budget overall. And if you've never built a computer, it's not that difficult. Yeah, and RTX doesn't tell me, and they're all RTX. Which one? Yeah, more. You need to be more specific than that. Do you have a budget in mind? Maybe that's a better way to go at it. Like if you sold your laptop, what would your budget be? Is it available outside the U.S.? Is what available outside the U.S.? $30.60. Okay. Well, this is not a blockbuster, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, $30.60 is a step up from where you are, the $16.50, but it might not be as colossal as all that. What? Maybe a better question is, what country are you in? So we may have some other folks in chat. If anyone's here, feel free to pop up. Budget's $800. 800 US? Okay. If it's 800 US, okay. I think probably... Let's have a look here. Ah, you're in South Africa. Wow, long way. Okay. Why are there no prices for that? That's weird. Do you have a preference for, it doesn't matter. Let me just have a quick look here. Motherboard. Sorry, I'm doing a little parts picking here. And this is just sample. I wouldn't take it for verbatim, but I suspect pretty much anything that's sold somewhere around here is probably sold somewhere around you too. Some sort of case. I'm going to put this thing in a case. I say this because, hey, I'm looking here. Let me show you. So I'm looking at the PC parts picker for you. Hey, you know, what else to do in Cruise? So let's see. Some kind of mid-tower case. I don't know. Fractal makes a nice case. I'm a little rusty on my cases, but I recall that Corsair is pretty decent. I need some power for this thing. And we could do a nice little, how about a nice simple Corsair? Add that. Operating system, yeah, you're gonna want one of those. And I assume you have a monitor? Or do you not have a monitor? So I think what I'm missing here is that the processor doesn't want to fill in. I like how it has no prices at the moment. It's kind of funny. We want something with an X3D if I can. You have a monitor. Oh, that's good. That's handy. No. Maybe. No. Huh. So interesting. Yeah. I was just trying to see if we had. Ryzen 5900, yeah, 5950. That 5950X is a good little processor. Oh, we got the 5700 X3D. So what have you got? What doesn't it like? Some sort of potential issue, it says. Estimated voltage, 361. Okay. Oh, we got a 750 on there. You're probably fine. Alright, well, I'm a little over 1,000 here, so that's probably a touch too much. But we could tinker with that. I mean, you could play around the graphics card. And yeah, a pretty damn good system rolling with something close to this range. But yeah, you might be able to find something. Secondhand might be a good way to go too. But play around with this website a little bit. And then there's a couple of other websites where you can see the performance capability of the processors and cards that you're looking at. So one of them is, for example, CPUbenchmark.net from Passmark. So you can see here's the processor you're looking at. It gives you single thread rating, which is pretty important for flight simming. Well, pretty much most games, but flight sim in particular. And you can come up to their main CPU benchmarks, and you can look at best values, things like that. Single thread charts. You know what's happening with those. It'll just give you a sense of where these things fall. It'll help you figure it out. And generally there's some pricing going. Give you some sense of where they are. Fortunately, computer hardware is no bargain. No bargain at all. I just happen to like to build computers. I happen to like building computers, so that gives me something to focus on and look at when I do these projects. What am I trying to get? What am I trying to accomplish with it? Do I want my flight sim? Well, for me, it's flight simming, so it'd be whatever I'm trying to do to make this flight sim go the best that I can. Always a challenge. Announcements. Okay. All right. So, Locke, I hope you have some fun looking at that stuff at least. I mean, so South Africa is a part of the world that I may get to at some point. Haven't been there yet. Not made it to Africa yet. I was supposed to go to Egypt, but that didn't quite work out. So it's quiet out here on VATSIM, that's for sure. But then it usually is when you're in this phase of flight. So, well, this is interesting. Washington says, oh, we're probably already past Washington Center. It says Washington Center's on, but I haven't gotten any calls from them. Yep, we're already outside Washington Center. That's so interesting. Just left their airspace. Oops, missed them. Well, that might have been fun for a hot minute, but guess not. Have to keep our eye out, though. Sometimes somebody else will come on when that happens. Interesting. So for those of you who are wondering, I'm just looking here on VAT radar. And we're right here, so just outside of it. So blocking, as I was saying, one of the things I try to do with this is with the computer here is, like, for example, right now I'm running OBS on here too. Now some people run that off their own, run that off a second computer, but I'm just writing them together. So I mean, there's plenty of headroom here on this computer, which I like. The only thing I really haven't done is really jack the RAM up high. It just doesn't seem to make any difference in the flight simulator setup. The difference, I've tried it with 32, I've tried it with 64. It doesn't make a big difference. There are some differences I expect between 16 and 32, but I don't know how significant they are. So one of the things that I'm not a massive fan of about the 777, I'm sorry, the 737, is how it handles the VOR tracking. So, if I'm here, I can put up an ILS or I can put up a VOR, and it'd be nice if we could sort of switch them around. Although, I might be able to play with that. Yeah, I don't know. I could do that, but I still have to swap it to make it active. It's just one of those little downsides of how they do it. Whereas, in the 777, your ILS frequency is going to be tracked separately from any VOR frequency that you select yourself, or which is auto-selected for you. So that's one of those little differences. I think it makes a difference in terms of quality of life with that. So just something to keep in mind. And just checking our progress, fuel quantity right now. Let's see, the top of descent, it's predicting. Oh, that's interesting. Our top of descent is 324 miles. Fuel quantity now is 14.8. Excellent. Okay, let's see how that compares to our flight plan. So our next waypoint that we're coming up to is Slojo, I guess. And it's Slojo. Expected fuel at Slojo about 14.9, and it looks like we're going to be at about 14.5, so we're not way off. All right, we can do a little landing en route if we'd like, just for laughs. Ha ha ha. Well, we can import from the OFP. We're going to go to 35 right. We can put our aircraft details in. 141. I have to double check that, but that's fine. Auto brakes. We'll go auto brakes 3. And VREF add will be 5. We'll have non-normal conditions won't be a factor. The packs will be on, anti-ice will be off. Can import the weather. Do a little calculating. Looks good. Plenty of room. Plenty of room. Let's check our arrival weather right now. Right now we have no wind. Okay. A few clouds at 29, broken at 25. And temperature's 31. So, and our altimeter's 2988. So it's nice and toasty. Nice and toasty. For some reason I keep losing connection with chat, it says here in my little chat tracker, but such is life. Again, just looking at our overhead, you can see here we're doing fine with our pressurization panel. That's looking good. Yep, plane's running nicely. One thing you can count on with your PMDGs is they're well behaved. You know, they do what they do it competently. No, they're not going to have every bell and whistle that someone can come up with, but they do their job, they do their work nicely. Do I have a Discord? We do not have a Discord for the channel yet, although we have been talking about setting one up because, well, I don't know, we're over 100 subscribers now, and we thought we might make a separate Discord. However, you can find me on a bunch of Discords. I'm a moderator at the unofficial PMDG Discord, also at the Flightbeam Discord, so I'm active on those. Easy to find there. Oh gosh, I belong to a lot of other Discord servers. Let's see. Like I say, Flightbeam. I'm a member of BAV Virtual, so I'm on there. Virtual Cargo International is another VA I participate in, so I'm there. The Flight Sim Labs unofficial Discord. I'm on the MSFS one, although I rarely post there, except to let people know about the content that's available. I don't know, just Beyond ATC one, the Say Intentions one, I'm on those. X-Plane one. There's some other streamers who are fantastic, like Blackbox 711. I belong there. I can't say I post there often. I subscribe to a bunch of other ones, mostly for news purposes. So yeah, you can find me on there at IADbound. It's my Discord. And my partner in this channel is Felix, and you'll find him on most of the same ones. He stirs up more trouble than I do, though. How about you? Are you on there? No, I'm not Felix. That's my partner. I'm IADbound. Felix is the other member, my partner in the channel here. So, yep, IADbound on the unofficial PMDG. That is I. Are you on there yourself? Guessing you are. Ah, you just joined now. Okay. Well, welcome. Yep. Yeah, I see this must be you. Yeah, I see someone just joined. We're underrated. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, you know, it's hard to get out there. There's a lot of people in this space. It's difficult to connect with folks. Watching someone stream a flight is not everyone's cup of tea anyway. With the podcast, we have a lot of fun with that, and I think we have some more guests planned, but Felix is super, super busy right now with some stuff going on at home, so he's got stuff to do there that's sort of keeping his participation time down a little bit. But upcoming guests that I think we're hoping to have soon, the president of VATSIM, I expect to have him on pretty soon. We're hoping to get somebody on from Bluebird, Scott from A2A. So, we're working on some folks. So, but yeah, the VATSIM one might be kind of interesting. Well, if you look at our past guests on here, We have had Evan from Flight Sim Expo on, who came on to talk about Shocker Flight Sim Expo. We had Fellis on, who makes the 742 in X-Plane. We've had Captain Crash on, who's working on a 707 in X-Plane. That one's going to be real interesting. He's an amazing guy. We've had Raul on from FS Reborn, who has a whole bunch of planes in MSFS now, including a really great turboprop, which is the M500, and he's got a 727 coming in Microsoft Flight Simulator with the guys from I'm forgetting which one it is. But anyway, he's got a 727 coming. That looks like it's going to be amazing. He's a great guy, wonderful story, great backstory. Highly recommend you go back and watch that one because it's a very inspiring story of his life in flight sim. And we've had another guy on, Hawks, who is a real-world air traffic controller who started out in flight sim. We like those, flight sim to real world stories, and vice versa. We had Black Box 711 on a couple of weeks ago. So we've had some very fun guests. It's hard to get guests though. I'm not going to lie. It's challenging. I was at Flight Sim Expo. I talked to a whole lot of people who said, yeah, we'd love to come on, but when you really push them, they don't want to come on. Or you don't hear back from them. But you hope that we do that. But hopefully our next guest is going to be the president of VATSIM worldwide. Very interesting guy. I've been doing this a long time. I think there's a lot to say about VATSIM that a lot of people don't know about, and I think it's kind of interesting. Are there any real-world pilot guests? Yeah. We had Yas on. Yas is a former KLM pilot. He flew the 777. He flew the 747 Classic. He flew the Classic. Yes, he flew the 737. He flew for KLM for many, 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 many years. And he is also an advisor for a number of folks who are developing planes in sims. So he's active in that context. And as I said, we had Black Box 711 on, who of course is a real world pilot. He's close to retirement now in his pilot world, but he flies professionally. Professor Crash is a pilot as well. He flew commercially in small planes before he moved on to becoming a science teacher. And Hawks, who we had on, also has his pilot license. He doesn't fly professionally because he's an air traffic controller, but we've had a number of real world pilots on as well. Where we can get them. It's not always easy to hunt folks down. So we're friendly with some additional people who are real world pilots, but due to their jobs, they don't want to come on. So I understand that. It helps if you're retired. But we've had some real world pilots on. We're hoping one of these days to do a shared flight with Black Box, but that's a tough one to get set up. Also, he's intimidating. Let's be honest. It's great to have him as a guest, though. But we're doing some live streaming now. Just to mix it up. I think people like that. Whereas I think people like live streaming, and it gets a little boring. You're just sort of watching someone fly around. I get it. There are times when we've had some longer talks about elements of these planes, what you want to know about them. I did that for the 777. You may have seen, and I think it's just a plane where a lot of the very interesting pieces are under the hood. How is he intimidating? Well, I'd be a little intimidating to do a shared flight with a guy who's been flying commercially for 30 years. That's all. I might be a little nervous in that circumstance. That's all I'm saying. But he's wonderful. He's just a great guy. He's amazing. Just very giving to the community as well. If you watch his streams, here's a guy who likes to walk you through what's going on. If you've ever seen his, he's got this website. It's really cool. what he does on there is you can go in and you can find out some airport-specific info that he's put together along with help from a lot of folks. So we took off from Dulles, and it'll tell you, for example, yeah, it would be entertaining to share flights. Sometimes they go great. Like if you look at some live streams of those, sometimes they're great. Sometimes they can be a little rough, mostly just because it puts a strain on the systems that allow for the streaming. But if you look at this website he's got, it's very cool, right? So it will tell you things like here's intersection information, the distance to the various distance from various intersections based on the runway. On engine failure, it tells you where your engine failure acceleration height might be, what the engine out procedure is. I mean, just great stuff. Your noise reduction takeoff, where those would be, thrust reduction 1320, 1320, and of course some more information about the various runways. I mean, it's pretty spiffy, and of course the airport elevation. That's just something he has on there. And then if you look at his docs, he's got a bunch of docs that you can look at, guides, tutorials, video tutorials. Yeah, it's pretty nice website. I think if we were to do that shared flight, it'd probably be on his stream because well, he's the big guy in the environment. We're the little guys, so to speak, but we're trying. We're trying. I guess one of the things I would ask then, Locken, if you're watching this, is there something that you are interested in particular in this plane? Hopefully I can answer. I'm not as versed in the 737 as I am in the 777 and the 747, but hey. Now I can gladly report that somebody is cooking something in my house and it smells good. Now, what it might be, I do not know. Do not know. Discord is hopping today, as always. As always. All right. So we are over South Carolina right now. How do I set up the overheads? Oh, okay. So your in-flight mode on the overheads. Actually, we can go. Let's see. Yeah, all right. Let me start up top, right? So this is going to be closed. Basically any of the guarded switches, you want to make sure they're closed. It's just sort of basic common sense the way they have them. Nav, obviously for your navigation, you're going to set it on the ground. So you just want it in the nav mode. There you go. You really don't have to do anything with the IRS display, the service interphone. The dome light, obviously you can turn it off or on or whatever. That's your call. Whatever you need. You might do your test with your Mach airspeed warnings and your stall test. Well, remember one thing on the stall test, it will not activate until the plane's been on for, on power, I think it's 4 minutes. I want to say it's 4 minutes. One thing that you do want to check, though, it should be on by default, but I can't remember exactly how to do in a Zebo, is you want the electronic engine control to be in the on and guarded. So, okay. And then if we come down to the main overhead, which I don't know why it's crooked, again, you want your guarded switches guarded. Things like the alternate flaps, you want them off. The yaw damper, you're going to want it on, of course, but you need to align the IRSs before you do that. The navigation pieces, these are all going to stay in normal. I mean, yeah, if you have a failure or something and you're following the quick reference handbook to solve your problem, it might instruct you to select one or the other of these options depending on your source of failure. Just like the displays, they're going to be auto. And it's pretty straightforward. Fuel pumps now. One thing to always remember with the fuel pumps is if you have fuel in, now the way fuel is loaded is it's going to go in the wings first, center pump last. If you have fuel in the center pumps, got to make sure that they're on until the center fuel tanks are empty, and you will get the pressure warning on this light here where I'm signaling, because you burn the center fuel first. So it's last in, first out. Last in to the center, first out from the center, and then you'll turn those off. You'll turn them off if there's no fuel in there. Also, recently when I've been flying, whenever I land, the wheels get stuck in the ground. Then I can't taxi. In the Zebo mod, I didn't know that was a problem. If you're getting stuck in the ground, somebody might be landing hard. I'm just guessing. We have to check and see if you've got a busted tire, because that'd be my best guess. Because that would be a problem that you might see. Unless you're in a situation where where you've landed, the auto brakes come on, and you have not disengaged the auto brakes. So when you land, the auto brakes, assuming you've set them, right? So you come over, so you come over here, and you set the auto brake to whatever, right? And you've armed the speed brakes and all that, and you land, and they all deploy. But you've got to engage the manual braking at some point to, somewhere below about 80 knots, engage that manual braking to disengage the auto brake, because otherwise it'll come to a stop and then it won't want to go anywhere because the auto brakes are on. So you want to make sure you've disengaged those. That could be your problem. Right, so back on the overhead. So on the overhead, well, let me turn up the brightness a little tiny bit here. I'm not seeing that well. So one thing, like for example here, this is all of your electrical information. I mean, you don't have to set it any particular way. Normally when you turn it on, you have the battery, possibly ground power. But you could check, here's Gen 1, it's telling you I've got 115 volts, 49 amps. I could turn, we could look at the standby power. I mean, there's, you could select the different inputs to see what you want to see, what's going on too. Gen 1, Gen 2, right? So APU gen's obviously off by way of example. Your cabin utility, IFE, normally those are in the on position, right? Because those are running things like the galleys or seat back video. Standby power, things like this are generally going to be closed. Obviously, when you come into the plane, if it's cold and dark, the battery will be off, and this will be up. It won't be guarded, so you put that down. Same with the emergency lights. Ground power, if we had it, when we're on the ground, you could connect it, you turn it on. I will say that this bus setup is confusing a little tiny bit, because everything's off, so that means that our Gen 1, Gen 2 from the engines is actually on, but it doesn't indicate it. On the other hand, if you're on the APU generator, it would tell you that, or if you're on the ground power. So it's a little bit puzzling the way it does that. And you do need to manually switch your gen source when you've started the engines, or if you've switched, or if the APU's on and you're switching from ground power. Your equipment cooling, you normally just keep these in normal. Emergency exit light, they'll probably be off in cold and dark, and then you just arm them by flipping this closed. Seat belts, I've got them in auto. Chime, doesn't really matter. That's not configuring, it just chimes. So up on the window heat, though, you want the left side and forward ones on, right side and forward ones on, and the probe heat's on before you take off. You don't need the window heat override on. So wing anti-ice, engine anti-ice, well, it depends if there's icing. I mean, if there is, you turn it on. The demand pumps, normally you can just leave the engine ones in the on position, because if the engines are off, there won't be any hydraulic demand. This is the hydraulic pump, by the way. The electrical ones, when you're on the ground, you're going to start with them in the off position. Once you need to pressurize the hydraulics in the real world, they would check with ground crew, and they would pressurize it. They would turn them on. So normally if you came in, this would be on, off, off. But again, the engine ones wouldn't be on because the engines aren't actually on. Cockpit voice recorder, there's really nothing for you to do. Same with your pressurization panel. Now over here, your voice recorder, you can have that off, it's fine. We've got the air temp to the continued, and I'm sorry, the continuous cabin. So this is that normal position where it is. You can move it around, but this is pretty typical. Same with the temperature settings. Cooler, warmer, just put it in auto. Now, on your fans, normally when you come in, the recirc fans are set to auto. The pack fans are going to be off because you're not actually running the packs yet, and the isolation valve is usually opened. And then the engine bleeds would be on, even though, but of course the engine's not actually running. But then on your APU bleed, now when you turn the APU on, you want to turn the APU bleed on. So when you're starting the engines, you want the packs off, the isolation valve is going to be open, and the APU bleed is going to be on. Once you've started the plane, you want to turn the packs to auto, the isolation valve to auto, and the APU bleed off, because that's what's going to give you pressure for the cabin. And this pressure setting here is just telling it approximately what your altitude is going to be. So it can automatically, see how we have it as auto, so it can automatically figure that out. This one, by the way, this open close, that's just a momentary switch, so it should be centered otherwise. And normally you keep this on auto. And then, of course, that's pretty much it on the overhead, other than the lights. Hopefully the lights are self-explanatory. The only tricky one really is the stupid position strobe. So the steady is like the nav lights, and then if you flip it up to strobe and steady, you get nav lights plus strobe light. That's pretty much. I mean, there's a lot going on that overhead. The one you really got to pay attention to is what to do before you start the engines and after you've started the engines to make sure that your cabin pressurizes. That's really your big concern. There, I said that very quickly. Sorry. We don't do a lot down here, to be honest, in the sim, because not much of this really does much. But the comms are on, and I've got the volume on. But in fact, the PMDG is not that slick. Even if you don't have it on, VATSIM still works. It doesn't really care. It's kind of lame, but just how it is. Don't know what to tell you. So of course in the real world the throttles are they are servo activated, so they're automatically controlled by the plane when you have the autopilot in. Yeah, a few weeks ago when flying on VATSIM, my cabin wasn't pressurized. Yep, there you go. That's the issue there. That tracks right back to this panel here, right? So this is the flight position. Auto, 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 auto. APU bleeds off, obviously, because the APU is not on, and then on and on for the engine bleeds. But the key is, after you start, you need to put the packs on the ground. Packs need to go to auto, auto, and the isolation valve needs to be in auto. The recirc fans should be on. I mean, I think they're on automatically on the Z-boat. It's been a while since I've flown it. But that's what's going to make the pressurization happen. A lot of people miss that one. It's easy to miss. It's not entirely intuitive. It's the way I would describe it. And of course, something like the 777, it does all that stuff automatically. So you don't have to tell it. Same with the Airbus, like an A320. 737 is a little retro that way. Let's check our heading bug here, which is off. There we go. So we have our setup for our landing. Let's see how far we are from top of descent. We have about 126 miles. 238 miles to the airport. Excellent. Coming along nicely here. Yeah, so in the real world, you know, if you had a pressurization problem like that, you would do a rapid descent down to below, I forget the exact number. You're going to go down to around 10,000 because that's a point where you're low enough where, you know, you're not risking people blacking out, that sort of thing. But the oxygen mask would drop. You'd have to put your oxygen mask on in the cabin or in the cockpit if you're the pilot, and your oxygen mask is right down here. Ooh, there's a little oxygen mask test just for fun. But anyway, yeah, that's you don't want that, and of course, you know, you'll get the alert. You'll get the alert up here about the cabin altitude right here. So yeah, I think that's where it pops up, or here, I forget which one. But yeah, you don't want that. Your passengers don't want that. Obviously, yeah, it's a sim. You can do what you want. If it happened, it's not the end of the world. But that's why you're getting that. I'll tell you, if you really like the 737, the other guy you got to check out is Flight Deck to Sim. His name's Sam. He's a real-world 737 check pilot now. Good stuff on his channel. Good stuff. He's very entertaining. And yeah, sometimes he does non-normals with it as well, which is always kind of interesting. Seeing as how I've never flown the 900 here before, a non-normal does not make a lot of sense. I don't know how much you want to watch me do a non-normal in the sim. I don't know if that's the best. I don't know if that's my best move, so to speak. So this is one of these. Oh, you watch him? Okay, good. Yeah, then you know. Yeah, he's a great racehorse for the 737. There's no question. He's one of the best you can get on that. And you know, honestly, there are a good number of real-world pilots who stream, etc. I think sometimes one of the things that's an advantage for somebody like me who's not a real-world pilot, and I'm doing the streaming, is I'm kind of coming at it from the simmer's perspective, you know, as to what my expectations are, what I think is realistic. I mean, we're not in an environment where the exact procedures are ultra critical. So it's more about, you know, how much realism are you trying to push into this. So one of the things I don't do a lot of is watch the passengers load. So you wish there were more real-world pilots who stream. I guess. I mean, there's plenty of them. I don't know what you're hoping for, or think is missing. I would say, of your real-world pilots where you really get your bang for your buck, Black Box 711 is my first one. I love Sam over at Flight Deck to Sim. If you look at V1, he's very good. Plenty of Airbus stuff in there. 320 Sim Pilot, also very good. He's flying the 787 now, but he did used to fly the A320. You could, if you want to see a guy who flew for a long time and flew a lot of different planes, you could check out Father Time. I think his is certainly educational. It's a little bit of a different take than these other guys, so you might like it, you might not. I don't know. He's worth checking out, but there's a good number of folks who are real pilots who are doing this, and of course there's some in other languages as well. So there's a fellow named Claudio Fonseca, yes, who's a real world 777 pilot. He's got a great channel. He doesn't stream as much as some people. In terms of your, sort of consistent streamers, it's not hard to find. who those people are. But I think, you know, watching streams is helpful and it's kind of fun. And I think that there's a good way. It's a good way to learn things. I think good tutorials are good. I think at some point you gotta do some searching around looking for real-world manuals. I just think it's your best bet at some point to invest some time in reading about the systems up to a point. I mean, you don't have to go find, you know, aircraft maintenance manuals or something, but it's interesting. Actually, if you're interested in some of the ins and outs of the aircraft from a maintenance side, there's a fella named, oh, what's his name? Stig, S-T-I-G. Try Stig airplane maintenance. He's on YouTube. He works for American out of LAX. Fun channel. You'll get some insights on what those guys do in the real world. And he always goes over to the cargo section to see what cars have come in that are being transported. Can't go wrong with his. Excellent learning opportunity. So. All right, let's see how we're doing. Okay, we are coming up on the start of the star here at Leopard, where you need it to be between flight level 340, right? Below that and above 300, which of course we are, and you can see right now we don't have any, our top of descent is still a little ways out. That's going to be over by, I can't read that. Can't see what that says. What's that one? Newman. Over by Newman. Right, because it's the Seinfeld 3 star. How clever. Okay. Take it for what it's worth. All right. So we're going to check again since we're pretty much going to have free reign to descend as we like. Our final fix is going to be all the way down 1600. But for our purposes, where we're going to end on our star is going to be right at 5,000. So I'm going to go ahead and set our altitude in the MCP at 5,000. And we're going to do a double check of the weather and see where our altimeter is, and we'll preset the altimeter. Altimeter is 2985, so I don't know why it does it this way. So we'll set that to whoops, 29. All right, 2985. There we go. All right, so we have our frequency set. We have our frequency and our course set. We have our minimum set. We have our altimeter set. And we let's have a look at where we might come in at this airport. So the real world flight went to gate 40, wherever that is, but we'll look here in a second. So if we come in on 35 right, we're going to be way out here in the boondocks. Okay, so we will go, probably come off here at November 3 or Juliet. Probably, we'll see. One of these two high-speed exits. We'll go across the bridge here at Juliet. Then we're going to go Lima. And then we'll go to Kilo. And we'll hold short for runway 35 left. And then what? Where are we going to park? Where are we going to park? That is an interesting question. Let's have a look at the parking options here. Parking gates, airside 1 and 3. Okay, so we could go airside 3. We could come to 40 right here if we'd like. So airside 3 matches up right here. Nope, it doesn't. All right, let's plan then on something on airside 2 or 4. Airside 2 or 4. How about maybe 120, 123, 125, something like that. One of these over here. That'll work. So we'll come off of there and we'll come across. Let's look again at how that's laid out. All right, Kilo, Hotel 1, Hotel 1, then we can figure it out from there. Okay, that'll work. Gotta say, really like the man and the iPad. Really like the what? Oh, the map and the iPad on PMG. Zebo doesn't have that. No, it doesn't have a built-in map, right? Because it assumes you're using AviTab, I think. I think that's what it's assuming you're using for charts. And I believe AviTab has a map. So if you add AviTab, I believe you can have a live map on there. But yeah, this is nice, I guess. I don't really care for that as much. I like to kind of work with my own setup like this. Either the Navigraph standalone. I've got an iPad around here somewhere I can put it on too when I want to. I sort of prefer that, but you know, that's fine. But yeah, the PMDG setup's okay. I mean, this tablet, in terms of for all the hype that they had and all the time that it took them, it could have been a lot better than this, though. That's pretty weak stuff, to be honest. The 777 has added a few more features, of course. There's more. They've moved a bunch of ground ops into here. That's wonderful, but yeah, it's not that great. I mean, it could be better. But it gets the job done for the moment. All right, so we've done our briefing, our descent briefing, and we'll start our way down here momentarily. Do a quick recall. Nope, nothing. That's excellent. Not that I was expecting anything terrible, but hey, you never know. Always good to check. Seriously. Okay, so in terms of our current position, we are just off of the coast of Florida on the eastern side, not far from Jacksonville, home of the CSX Railroad for you railroad fans, or fucking rail nuts as we sometimes call them. Oh, did I say that out loud? Didn't mean to say that. But yeah, home of CSX for the FRNs. And we'll sort of be staying this general direction on our way into Orlando. We'll be coming south, of course, but then slightly to the east of the airport. There's a little tiny bit of traffic at Orlando, but nothing much. Interesting at Orlando right now on the VATSIM info, somebody's flying an Air France Concorde out of Orlando to Madrid. Okay, sure. Good thing I'm not a railroad fan. Yeah, no, yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I have no love for railroads. That's a professional problem, not a sim problem. I don't. Railroads are not on my radar. Yeah, so I see. So this Air France Concorde. It looks like they're getting on the runway. I think. Hard to tell. Interesting. I wonder which Concorde they're using. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's only one Concorde, and that is the FS Labs Concorde. You know, I get the realism thing, but I don't know if you've seen the FS Labs Concorde. It's insane how good it is. It's so amazing. That will bring a computer directly to its knees. directly to its knees. And if you haven't tried a Concorde or flying one, it is an experience. Oh my God, that was some real work. It came out a year ago now. That was really challenging. Really challenging. It uses the old SIVA navigation system, which is totally workable, but it's not super precise. It's everything happens in that plane very quickly. Very unique control system. It's really cool. I wish I knew which one he was using. There is actually a Concorde. There's still a working Concorde simulator at the Brooklands Museum in the UK. And when you go to fly it, you do it with ex-Concorde pilots. Not had a chance to do that, but I know a couple of people who volunteer there. They say it's amazing. So that's high on my list of things to go do. Actually kind of hoping that I might get there this year and do it. Might be next year, though. Might be never. We'll see. But yeah, I'm puzzled by the Orlando to Madrid. Yeah, maybe it's possible. There's nobody in it. Don't know. British Airways used to fly it to somewhere in the Caribbean. Gosh, I can't think of what route it was. Silly me. Anyway, their main route was London to New York. That was their primary route. They did fly it out of Dulles for many years, but at the end there, both British Airways and Air France were basically flying the London, New York, or Paris, Charles de Gaulle to New York. Great book about that too, about the Concorde, written by Mike Bannister, who's former Concorde chief pilot for British Airways. Highly recommend that if you have not seen it. Okay, you can see we are descending now, chugging along as per usual. We've already lost the profile, but it says we're still on path. We're not way off. You can see here. You can just track it along. Doing fine. See, there we are. We've caught up. Let that speed go. Just cranking along. All right. We'll just keep an eye on our radar here for other radar on our TCAS for other traffic. Wonder how aviation would look if the Concorde was kept. I don't know that it would be wildly different. I mean, the Concorde was a niche product. It was a flagship product, but it was a niche product, and serving a limited number of routes. And I think at this point, I think there's a strong probability the Concorde would have been retired by now anyway. The Concorde had already been in service for 25 years, I think. Yeah, 25, 26 years, something like that. Regular service. When it was taken out of service, they're very expensive to maintain, as you might expect. Just because there weren't like an excess of parts, they didn't build that many Concordes. The fleet is small, and my guess is it would have been taken out of service by now. It's an interesting question. I think what we haven't done is really figured out, well, what is the next step, next generation? Because you could look at it and think, well, the 747 is really what established modern day air transport as we know it. Sort of the idea that the airplane is a glorified bus. Concorde was sort of an antithesis of that in terms of, super efficient in terms of your flight time, not from a fuel perspective. But it wasn't all that efficient from a passenger fuel perspective. It was a prestige product, amazing prestige product, but that's what it was. And nowadays, everyone's just trying to figure out how to maximize your yield, which is normal. So So let's see how we're doing on our descent here. So our next point is for you, which we need it to be above 13,000. Not a problem. We're going to make that just fine. And then we can track the speed brakes now. And then our point after that's going to be Nick, where we need to be above 12,000. Again, no problem there, because it's only another 6 miles to there. And sort of our next bigger spot is, do I have any plans to get my real-world pilot license? Answer is no, for several reasons. One, it's a very expensive hobby, and I have a lot of other financial obligations that make that cost prohibitive for me. Two, living in a DC area, it's kind of a pain in the ass to go fly because we're in the restricted flight area, so it puts some limits on it. Not that much, but it's a bit of a pain. But you're definitely at your most expensive cost to do that. I have done an exploratory flight. It was a lot of fun. I'd love to go up again or have more opportunities to go up. But I don't anticipate doing that. Now, what I did do was I did do the P1 program in VATSIM, which is sort of the VATSIM equivalent of your private pilot license. That was a lot of fun. Highly recommend that. So I spent a lot of GA time, flew this Cessna 172 all over this sim, and X-Plane. Actually started an X-Plane with the default 172 with a couple of minor modifications from my virtual airline. But no, I don't. I'd love to, but no, I don't think so. Also, I'm, realistically, I'm old enough now where my prime flying years are probably behind me, not in front of me. I mean, I could probably fly for another 15 years, but I'd have to be getting a medical every 6 months, etc. As much as I would love to, I just don't know that it'll happen. But sometimes circumstances change or financial circumstances change. You never know. So the P1 program is a VATSIM program, or it's the VATSIM equivalent of like a private pilot license. How does it work? Well, there are approved training groups to get your P1, and what you do is you do the same kind of steps that you do in the real world. There's sort of a ground school component, right? Learning all about flight, dynamics of flight, and then you go out and you work on your piloting skills in typically some kind of GA plane, normally just a single piston like a 172, and you fly it in the sim and you do all the stuff they do in the real world, like straight and level flight, turns, climbing turns, descending. You do things, and navigation, of course, cross-country navigation, where you aren't using moving maps or any of that kind of stuff. You have to do it visually because it's not instrument flying, so you're doing it visually. And you plan out your plog, a pilot log, where you figure out all the different points you're going to go to, what are the visual reference points you're going to be using, how far are you from there. You get your E6B calculator out to figure out, if I cruise at this speed with this wind, what heading do I have to have? How many minutes is it going to take? That sort of thing. How much fuel do I need? And you, of course, you got some basic safety things like engine. If you had engine out landings, if you have to do, you do some things like 45-degree turns, stalls, all of that kind of stuff. It culminates ultimately in. Maybe I should try to do that to practice for my. Oh, are you practicing on? Are you planning on going into real world training? It sounds like you are, especially for nav. Yeah, I mean, mind you, that's going to be visual nav in the P1, but it's good stuff. Learning how to do a pilot log, all that kind of stuff. If you're planning on a private pilot license, you're going to do all of that. I assume it's very similar in South Africa as it is anywhere else in terms of what your requirements are. All right, so in our next spot, we need to go down and slow down. Here, we want to be below 12,000. but above 10,000, but we want to be at 250. So as you can see, it hasn't targeted the new speed yet, but we'll want to pay attention to that because we're only about 8 miles from the from Higgs, which is our point with the restriction. You can see the restriction there: 250, above 10,000, below 12,000. That's cool that you want to go do that, though. That's awesome. Perhaps you're on the younger side. I'm going to guess yes. Thinking about airline pilot stuff, maybe. Plenty of good advice on some of these Discords. Even on that PMDG. If you look on there, you'll see some really interesting stuff. Oh, you're already a student pilot? Damn. All right. Well, you're kicking ass then, my friend. I'm going to have you do the stream. Still got stalls, turns. Yeah, okay. All right, so you're going to do all the basics. Yeah, circuit training. I forgot. How could I forget circuit training? I love circuit training. Oh, I'll tell you, the one where I did the circuit training, it was rough. It was rough because we used Wickham Airfield, which is just outside of London. And when you take off, you don't stay on the runway heading. You got to turn 10 degrees, and then you got to come out to this point, and you turn. You have to. There's a bunch of noise abatement areas where you can't fly into, so the circuit is longer than average. Oh, it was quite a little challenge. All right, looks like we're going to make our altitude and our speed restriction here towards the low side based on whatever it has specified. All right, and you can see off to our right here, the runway, the airport's right over here. Our discontinuities right here. You can see where the just heads off. The heading just keeps going. And Cirray's the point where we're going to hook back up for our final approach. So we'll vector ourselves at that point. Can you choose the airport for P1? Well, it depends on what authorized training group you seek out and what airport they use. If you look on VATSIM, there's things on what training groups do this stuff. There's a bunch of different ones. So it depends on what airport that particular training group is using. Airport or airports. I did not get to choose my airport, and I didn't get to choose most of my cross-country points or any of that. The instructor had me do them based on what they wanted, to test on. It's a lot of fun. I did it with BAV Virtual, it's British Airways Virtual. Good group. Unfortunately, they have a waiting list a mile long for the P1 program. Because, you need instructors. But there's other virtual airlines that do it. All right, and what's our next restriction? VOS, we need to be 230 and above 8,000. Okay, we're looking okay on that. Bring our range down a little bit. Do we have anybody else coming in? No, it doesn't look like it. Don't have anybody in or around the airport. All right, that works. What altitude are they at? Oh, they're way above me. Okay. Wonder if I can find one with my... Yeah, you might. I would look around for an authorized training group that covers your region and then see if they happen to use that airport. Nope. You don't have to pay for it. It was free, or at least mine was. I don't think anyone's paying for it. I don't think they're allowed to charge, or if they are, I'm not aware of that. But I did not. And those folks gave a lot of their time. Really amazing. It did take almost 2 years. It took like 2 years to do, though. Just in terms of trying to get everyone's timing together. It's tough. Tough to do it quickly. Now let's recheck our altimeter here. 2985. We have 2985. And let's check our CTAF frequency here on our friends at VetSim. Dot CTAF KMCO. And CTAF is 118450. Okay. 18450. Well, yeah, it took 2 years, but hey, where was I going? I didn't have anywhere to be. It didn't make a big difference. It was good for my airmanship, I'll tell you that much. I learned plenty of stuff, and it was nice to work with folks. Oh yeah, I hope you should be long done with your PPL, I hope. Yeah, it's really important in that PPL for continuity. That was one of the tough parts, was because it took a long time, sometimes I'd come back to things and be like, I don't remember. I'm sorry. And it's like, I really don't remember. All right, I'm going to let our MCO traffic know what's going on here. Orlando traffic, United 379 is inbound on the Seinfeld 3 star and will be vectoring for runway 35 right, Orlando traffic. Oh, that was long-winded. Okay. Here we go, coming down, slowing down, I like it. Looking like we have some idea of what we're doing. We're supposed to be at 210 and 5,000 at Kubel. I'm just giving a little speed brake to help it out. If you notice, it's not commanding the speed, so we'll go flaps 1 just because it wants the speed below that, just to make it easy. Well, I guess we could keep the speed up a little bit more than that. Let's just make it 2,000, 200, 210, whatever it's supposed to be. 210, 210, 210. There we go, 210. Well, I guess I can keep it in clean. Sorry. Sorry, system. We're back. We're back now. My bad. All right. Interesting how. Nope. See, it's commanding the correct speed now. Any simmers in Orlando? No. There doesn't appear to be anybody here at this airport now. Plenty of simmers in the Orlando area, though, like real world. All right, so as you can see now, it's LNAV, but we're really on the vector. So what we'll do is we'll put our heading on. I'm sorry. I don't know why this thing is messing with me. I did not mean to do that. I'm pressing the wrong. Oh, stop it. Yeah. Shush. So my heading select button is incorrect. That's why I have it set to an external controller and it's pressing the wrong button. That's why I have to fix that. All right, so we have our heading select, and as you can see, we have Saray right over here. So we're going to go past Saray, and then we'll go ahead and turn ourselves to. Well, let's see. We'll go to We'll go to basically 270, 28, 270, 240, one of those. To put ourselves on, because we're going to come around to 35 right, which of course is our more or less our reciprocal right now. I don't understand why 35 right was 005. That's why it's confusing. As I was saying, if you go back and look again, it says 35 right, which is kind of crazy. 35 right was final approach course was 005. Right. Huh? See? 005. So that's why it seems odd. We'll go 275 probably. All right, let's go 275. go. And we can go flaps 1. Excellent. Targeting our slower speed now. And let's bring ourselves down for our next spot, which is going to be that 1600. Get it on the VNAV speed. Just check that was our platform altitude. Just want to make sure one more time. 1600. Excellent. And we're descending. Now, what can we do here that might make this? We could turn. We could literally vector ourselves. I could arm the localizer, but what's going to happen? It's going to be a tough 90-degree turn. So let's bank ourselves in now, so that we can get ourselves at a nice, maybe 30-degree angle, like 3-4, go like 330. Excellent. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and arm the approach. So let's arm the approach. Approach is armed. And then we should capture the localizer, which we have. You can see it's telling us our DME. We've got 18 miles. Go around altitude is going to be 3,000 when we've got once we have the glide slope. And you can see VNAV's doing its thing. We're in VNAV path. Flaps 1. We can go flaps 5 now. Flaps 5. And it'll start going down and slowing down. A little lake out in front of us here. Can't remember what lake that is. Alright, let's get our approach set. So on our approach, we've got our landing lights on. So we're set to go on that. And the seat belts are on. Not that they wouldn't have been, but... Alright. And we've got our glide slope captured now. How you do the ILS landing, for some reason, it isn't working for me. Well, there could be a lot of reasons for that. It don't make it super easy in the in the 737. All right, now we have single channel. I mean, we could go ahead. We don't need drag. I don't know why it's saying it needs drag. It doesn't need drag. That's weird. Okay, or it shouldn't really need drag. Okay, we could now set autopilot second channel. Wonderful. All very interesting. Well, we're going to land it ourselves anyway, but all fine, well, and nice. 12 miles out. We'll let folks know where we are. Orlando traffic. United 379. 12 mile final. Runway 35 right. United traffic. Orlando traffic. United traffic. Sure. Whatever United traffic is. What are some reasons what are some reasons it isn't working? Okay. Key thing. Key item is you have to have the frequency set and the course set, preferably on, you need to have them set identical on both sides, co-pilot side, or captain side, co-pilot side, for it to lock on. Second, you need to arm approach mode, right? So that's got to happen with the approach function, which you can see. Well, it's right. We already did that.
2500.
Because it's already captured the glide slope and the localizer. But those are your big reasons why it's not going to work. And of course, you need to be at the right altitude. If you're too high, it's not going to capture. Need to pay real close attention to those charts. All right, we can get our, we'll go ahead and go flaps 15 here. Gear down. And let's set our reference. We're going to go flaps 30. So we're going to go 146 on the speed. Start dialing it down. All right, landing gears down, flaps 25. And we're going to go flaps 30. Now, should be a flat. All right, so we're flaps 30. So, you know, key thing, right? You want to be, let's set our go around altitude, which is 3,000. Okay, set that. So you want to be stable, of course, at 1,000. That's key. That's, you know, good landings, right? Start with good prep, etc., etc., etc. Blah blah blah. Okay, now when we're ready, we're going to take out the autopilot and the auto throttle. We're going to take them both out. Hopefully, I set my my controller up correctly because I've not had. You're getting the first live test of the controller on this point. This should be interesting. Let's get our auto brake set. Okay, landing set. That includes arming the speed brakes. Yep, they're armed. Okay, the landing set puts us in a position where the landing lights are on, etc. Orlando traffic, United 379, short final, runway 35 right. All right. Let's get this thing set where I can see it. Okay. All right. Autopilot's off. Auto throttle's off. My plane. All right. Let's see what happens. I'm a little rusty here. It's going to be interesting. We're getting a little bit low, a tiny bit. There we go. Adjusting. 200. Continue.
Light slope.
We're not that low. Stop bugging me. Yep.
100.
Let's fly to the runway.
50. 30. 20. 10.
All right, and we're down. And the spoilers are armed. Reversers. Hopefully. Yep, we're getting the reversers. Excellent. Stay on the center line. Terrific. Below 80, can store the reversers. Manual braking. Excellent. Well, not the prettiest landing ever, but not bad for my first go in the 900. I'll take it. Let's get my after landing light set. Okay. And we'll get this off. Excellent. All right. And we'll just check where we are here at the airport. Should become a hotel. I'm sorry, Juliet should be up in front of us. We want that next. Orlando traffic. United 397 is clear of runway 35 right. Taxiing via November Juliet Kilo Hotel for Airside 2 area. Orlando traffic. Okay. Let's sure we got everything stowed. Flaps coming up. Make sure the APU is started. APU is started. That's good. Slow down a little bit into this turn. Thank you, Locken. Yeah, not a bad landing. Seen worse. So when landing should the auto brake come off? Well, okay, so when you drop below about 80 knots, right, you could start to apply the manual brake. That's going to disengage the auto brake. Okay, let me make sure our TCAS is back to transponder. It should be. Yep, transponder. Okay, Dan. Let's check this here. Yep, we're down. Looking okay on those. Taxi lights. Yep. Alright, that all looks good. So, of course, main goals right on landing are touchdown zone and center line. The as long as you're not slamming it on the ground, that's all that really matters. What if I apply manual braking? Yeah, it'll still disengage the auto brake, but you don't really need to before that. That's all I'm saying. There's no must do on that point. Is all I'm saying. Interesting flicker there. That looks like a TAA, anti-aliasing something, or there's some kind of ground problem here. Interesting. That's annoying. Not to mention slightly sickening. Alright. Yep, APU coming along, yes. Did it not start? Let's try that again. Okay, that's weird. Check that in a second. Alright, and we're coming up here on Lima. We're going to turn left at Lima. Just control our speed into the turns. You don't want to go too fast through the turns. You want to be don't want to be much above 10 on your ground speed. Alright. Let's look at this again, what it's doing here. Let's turn it off. Not sure what the APU is complaining about right now, but we'll get it sorted here in a second. Ah, there we go. Maybe? Well, see what happens. Alright, and we should be coming up right here on Kilo. Plus Orlando Airport is spread out. I mean, not Amsterdam spread out, but it's spread out. Old Schiphol is something to behold, especially when they send you out to that one runway. It's like 10 million miles away. Okay, we're going to go straight across here. Let's see if the APU actually started this time. Yeah, it did. What do you know? Got a little grumpy with me the first time. What got you into flight simming? Oh, that's a good question. So I've always sort of been interested in aviation. I love getting on planes, and I tended to have a sense of what planes I was flying or what planes I'd been on, that sort of thing, in terms of the models and the carriers and all of that. And I did quite a lot of flying over the years, just as a passenger, of course. Here we are, we're going to cross this runway. Orlando traffic, United 379, crossing runway 01. Or, I'm sorry, runway 17, right. And so, so I'd always been kind of interested in that. And then sometime in the late 90s, I had a copy of Microsoft Flight Simulator. And, it was pretty rudimentary, as you might expect. And I didn't have any controllers or anything like that. And honestly, I didn't know kind of what to buy or what to do. And the reality of it is that nowadays, of course, it's so easy to do. There's just so much information available to you that you just don't have, that you didn't have then, or it wasn't so readily accessible. So I didn't necessarily know, where to go to get the information. And so, I tried all this stuff out, but in the end, I didn't love it. I just couldn't get the hang of it. And then in 2019, really, these are the only gates that will fit this plane. You've got to be kidding me. That is total nonsense. Total, utter nonsense. I'm sorry. That makes no sense whatsoever. Let's see here. Let's go to 120. 120. All right. No. Okay. All right. I don't know what it's complaining about. It was complaining there, and I don't know what it's complaining about. In any event, so in 2019, I had planned a very big, sort of epic flying trip, and I went to. Let me make sure. Sorry. Did I tell it 120? 121? I can't remember which one I said. Oops. Get these landing lights off so we don't hypothetically blind anyone. Alright, well, hopefully it was here. I don't remember. Anyway, so I went on this really amazing trip, and I, took all of these great, airlines and planes, 777 to Asia, and A380 intra-Asia and over to Europe, and Dreamliner and the old 747-400 and all this good stuff. And then, right when I got back, Microsoft announced the new, Microsoft Simulator 2020. And I saw this preview, and I said, I got to have that. I mean, it looked amazing. I said, I got to try that. I got to get my way back into it.
Going to be joining the ILS runway 35 right to Orlando.
Hey, there's somebody else who's alive and kicking on this here. All right, let's set the parking brake. Okay, get the APU on the bus. APU's on the bus, and we can get the beacon light off, and we can get the engines off. And we have completed our flight. Amazing. We can get some ground power in if we like. Let's get some chocks, and we'll get the external pit power. Request that since we're at a gate. Let's have a look. Wonderful.
Orlando Travis Burns 181. We're going to be on a 10-mile final for runway 35 right Orlando.
And as you can see here, we can now get the ground power on. There we are, and we can turn the APU off, and we can get the hydraulics off, etc. We get the fuel pumps off, so on and so on and so on, and we can turn the nav I don't know what timer is running here, but I didn't set a timer. That's interesting. Okay, that was weird. Sorry about that. It's a timer from an external source there. What was I doing? Yes, we can get the probe heats off. We could do all of these things. It's all wonderful. You probably don't care. It's not that important in the scheme of things. Get the the packs off and to open and so on 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 and so on. You could do all of these things. We can get the yaw damper off, and we could come up top, turn that off. So we weren't going to go a full shutdown, but next guy can get on. So anyway, in terms of the flight simulating, I saw the 2020 preview, and I said I got to do that. And so I got it, and I was pretty much hooked. Although interestingly, you know, right when it came out, it wasn't 100% ready for prime time, and I wanted to sort of get as much authentic experience as I could muster. And the way I saw to do that was I kept saying stuff about X-Plane, P3D, all these different planes. I kind of started with an Airbus, which was probably the wrong thing to do. It was definitely the wrong thing to do. You know, the thing that really works well is if you start with the basics. But hey, I wanted to fly an airliner because that's what I liked. But I got into it, and I just dove head first, and here we are, you know, 4 years later, and this has become my favorite thing to do as far as hobbies. So that's the long and the short of it, but that's what got me into it. Well, we sort of let's have a quick look around. So the Orlando airport, if you haven't been there, it's quite large, and they have these little trains that go between the main terminal and these and the airside terminals. As you can see, there it's going, and these little lakes in between. It's quite an interesting place. Not the nicest airport in the world, but it's definitely gets the job done. And, you know, they fly a lot of big planes in and out of here as well. Obviously, it's a big tourist destination. So, well, Lachlan, if you don't have any other questions, I'm gonna sign off. Unless you have anything to add, I'm happy to answer any last questions. Well, everyone, I do thank you for joining us today, and we'll catch you on the next stream or the next podcast. As always, if you enjoyed this, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you all next time, which hopefully